Now, thanks to the internet and overly spoilery movie trailers, it's hard to keep any secrets in Hollywood for long. If there's a surprise appearance in a movie, then chances are it'll be found out before too long. In the age of spoilers, everything gets spoiled. Well, almost everything, because there are at least some surprises left in the world of movies, even if they come retroactively, when somehow famous faces go unnoticed in some of the biggest and most successful movies in the world. And that's what we're here to talk about today. As I'm Jules, this is Whatculture.com, and these are the actors you didn't know were in huge movies. Rege, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, there are few cast lists quite like the Harry Potter franchise. Stretching over 8 movies with different characters constantly coming and going, the iconic movie series boasts a who's who of huge names in the British acting world. Even aside from the key players, the likes of Dawn French, John Cleese and John Hurt were instantly recognisable, but it seems that the franchise even included stars before they became stars, like Regency-era heartthrobs, for example. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, towards the start of the movie, Bill and Fleur's wedding is interrupted by an announcement proclaiming the Ministry of Magic has fallen and that the Minister for Magic is dead. The whole wedding party stops to pay attention, including Simon Bassett from Bridgerton. It was a small role, less than a handful of seconds on screen and not enough to make it into the movie's credits, but there's no mistaking Rege Page standing next to Hermione and Molly Weasley. Page took the entire world by storm in 2020, but 10 years earlier, he was part of one of the biggest franchises in the world.
Film and TV is cool, but you know what else is cool? Protecting your privacy online. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 3 months free if you sign up today. I'd make that deal. Damn good deal.
Alan Tudyk, Moana. Now, most people probably first met Alan Tudyk in either Firefly or as Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball. Since then, however, he's gone on to have an IMDb credits page few can match. But one thing that may have gone under the radar is Tudyk's run of appearing in 10 Disney animation movies in a row. Starting with voicing King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph in 2012, the actor has also lent his voice to Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, Moana, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Frozen 2, Raya and the Last Dragon, Encanto, and most recently, Strange World. Alongside other Disney collaborations in the live-action Aladdin remake and Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, this is a ridiculous streak. But potentially one of the more surprising characters voiced by Tudyk comes around the middle of the pack, which is with Moana. Of course, Dwayne Johnson was the biggest name in the movie, bringing life to a demigod of the wind and sea. But did you ever wonder who voiced the chicken? Well, it turns out it was Alan over here. What a lovely surprise. Christopher Judge, The Dark Knight Rises. Though you might not recognize Christopher Judge's face unless you are a Stargate fan, you'll almost certainly be familiar with his voice. Having played Kratos in the 2018 reboot of God of War and its 2022 sequel, the latter of which bagged him a Game Award for Best Performance, Judge has some of the most recognizable pipes in the video game biz. He's also well known for the Stargate franchise, a role which he carried from 1997 all the way through to the 2008 movie Stargate Continuum. But what neither PlayStation fans nor Stargate fans probably knew is that Judge has a small part to play in The Dark Knight Rises, Christopher Nolan's 2012 conclusion to his Dark Knight trilogy. Here, Judge played the illustrious role of mercenary assassin number 3, who corners Joseph Gordon-Levitt's John Blake character while he's trying to help his fellow cops out of their underground prison. Mercenary assassin number 3 then pulls a gun on Blake, and just when he's about to fire, in leaps Batman, saving Blake's life. Batman vs. Kratos. Now that is a movie idea. Laz Alonso, Avatar. In spite of the wild oversaturation of the superhero genre in recent years, The Boys has managed to separate itself from the pack as one of the best comic book adaptations ever, taking an unflinching and diabolical approach to the corruption of superheroes, and this has been the highest profile work so far of Laz Alonso, the actor who plays MM. If you happen to have watched the Season 3 episode Herogasm, there is likely one particular image of the character that is burned into your brain forever. But 10 years prior to joining Butcher and Frenchie, Alonso also appeared in Avatar, the highest-grossing movie ever, but thanks to the fact that he played one of the Na'vi, it was impossible to recognize the actor. Here he plays Jake Sully's rival when he joins the Na'vi, and he died during the events of the movie, meaning that there was no way to return in The Way of Water 13 years later. Jack Quaid, The Hunger Games. Alongside Laz Alonso in The Boys is the heart and soul of the show Jack Quaid, who plays Huey, who for the first few years was the nerdy good guy who struggled to stand up for himself, essentially being the antithesis of Billy Butcher. Since seeing his girlfriend shredded by a superhero in 2019, though, the actor has gone on to star in 2022's Scream and will be making an appearance amongst arguably one of the greatest ever ensemble casts ever in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer in 2023. There are definitely bright things in this actor's future, but more importantly, some obscure appearances in popular movies from his past. Because if you go back and watch The Hunger Games and keep an eye on the group of tributes that use Peter to hunt down Katniss, you'll see that next to Bjorn from Vikings and Esther from Orphan, you'll unmistakably see Huey from The Boys. Though he's murdered multiple superheroes in his time, it's still hard to imagine the same man playing Marvel, a tribute from District 1 who is essentially a trained killing machine and who genuinely wants to be a part of the games. Incredibly, Huey even referenced Katniss, the character responsible for his death, in Season 2 of The Boys, a little Easter egg that put a smile on the faces of nerds everywhere. John Krasinski and Kathryn Hahn. The Holiday. Now, everyone has their favourite Christmas movies, and while it may be at the top of fewer people's list than, say, The Grinch, Elf, or Jingle All the Way, The Holiday is definitely a solid choice for any cold December night. As one of the main characters who takes part in the whole house swap thing with Kate Winslet's Iris, Cameron Diaz's Amanda is a work-obsessed movie trailer producer. Only at the very start of the movie do we get a glimpse of the work that ultimately helped destroy pretty much every relationship that she ever had. It's understandable that the major takeaway from the scene is the incredibly cheesy trailer for Deception featuring James Franco and Lindsay Lohan, but what about the two employees that show her the footage? Well, they're none other than John Krasinski and Kathryn Hahn. Neither appears in the movie after this scene, and in spite of the likes of The Office coming into full swing for the former and appearances in both Anchorman and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days for the latter, neither were anywhere near the huge stars that they are now. Henry Cavill, Stardust. In the same vein as the Harry Potter franchise, there are a surprising number of big names in Matthew Vaughn's Stardust. Based on the Neil Gaiman book of the same name, the likes of Charlie Cox and Claire Danes are joined by Michelle Pfeiffer, Mark Strong, Ricky Gervais, Robert De Niro, and of course, the voice of Sir Ian McKellen. The main character is Cox's Tristan, who has fallen hopelessly in love with Victoria and is prepared to do anything to win her love, even fight a far bigger man knowing damn well that he could never win. And while back in 2007, Charlie Cox was way off the shape that he would ultimately reach as Matt Murdock in Daredevil, Henry Cavill was still in Superman-esque shape even this many years earlier. It really wasn't a fair fight, at least in the first instance, though Tristan did surprise Humphrey when they met again at the end of the movie. Because Cavill's two major scenes bookend the story, and with so much going on in between, it's easy to forget that Superman did in fact square off against Daredevil. Jon Favreau, Solo. Star Wars is one of the biggest franchises in the world, and as such, it can boast an unparalleled cast of actors. There are also plenty of famous names off-screen as well. Executives like George Lucas, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni are joined by directors, whether you love them or hate them, who have a huge say in the future and trajectory of the franchise. But what about somebody who does both? Well, Jon Favreau has arguably done more for Star Wars than anyone else in recent years, with the creation of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett ushering in an exciting new era for the franchise. But he's also appeared in the only Star Wars movie that you could actually label as a flop. His inclusion will likely have slipped the notice of many, but Favreau does indeed lend his voice to Rio, a key member of Tobias Beckett's crew who ultimately gets himself killed in the hunt for precious coaxium. Jenna Ortega, Iron Man 3. After Millie Bobby Brown took the world by storm in Netflix's Stranger Things, it was the turn of Rege Page. And after the Bridgerton actor became a star overnight, he was followed by Jenna Ortega. Wednesday has broken all kinds of records on the streaming service, and a lot of it has to do with Ortega herself. Previously, Wednesday Addams was a supporting player in the Addams family, but here she was taken to another level by the young actress. Even if you haven't seen the show, chances are you've seen Wednesday's already iconic dance. However, while many fans had their minds blown at realizing that she was in the first season of You, most will likely have missed that she has already appeared in the MCU, and in one of the highest grossing entries in the franchise ever. 10 MCU movies have so far crossed the $1 billion mark at the box office, including Iron Man 3, in which an 11-year-old Jenna Ortega plays the daughter of the Vice President of the USA. It was the want to see her out of her wheelchair with the help of extremists that drove her father to the side of Aldrich Killian. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Knives Out, and Glass Onion. The final entry on this list is on a whole other level from the previous 9, as the actor in question was meant to be hidden. Aside from the fact that he has collaborated with the director multiple times, there was no way that anyone could have known that Joseph Gordon-Levitt appeared in both Knives Out and Glass Onion, and they're interesting cameos to say the least, and yet this is exactly how Johnson decided to utilize the actor's talents. In Knives Out, Gordon-Levitt plays Detective Hard Rock in the TV show Marta's sister watches towards the beginning of the movie. It's almost impossible to nail down that this is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but if you really listen, there's the slightest of chances that you can pick this up. In Glass Onion, however, you've got no chance, as the actor voiced Miles Bron's obnoxious clock that bonged on the hour throughout his private island. Johnson, the director, has already set his sights on the third Benoit Blanc mystery, so fans should definitely keep their ears out for Gordon Levitt when the time comes.